Hi guys, Nick here, and welcome to our Middle-earth strategy battle game Proxy Compendium. The aim of these videos is to provide a digital glossary of proxies, so that anyone getting into the hobby can have a good place to start when building their army. We will be considering 3D prints, STLs, and miniatures made for different games that are aesthetically fitting to the world of Tolkien. The armies will be covered alphabetically, but the armies will be grouped by factional relevance. Minas Tirith and the fiefdoms will be Gondor, etc. As always, we would recommend getting official miniatures as much as possible, but that's not always viable since a great deal of official miniatures are rotated in and out of production. Also, we can't promise anything in terms of availability, shipping time or cost, or the standard of prints, etc, because those things vary quite a bit.
Hey gang, it's time for the D factions. That's Dale with Laketown, Dol Guldur, Dunharrow, and Dunland, separate from Isengard. Before we begin, here's another D for you. Discord. Our Discord server is home to a welcoming and slowly growing community where you can discuss news, rumours, upcoming releases, conversions, paint schemes, terrain builds, and even homebrew. Check the link in the description and hop on. The Dale we see in the film, and Laketown after, both have a distinctly Baltic or Slavic flavour. The city even looks like Dubrovnik. Being a mercantile city-state, a brisk walk away from the gates of Erebor, Dale's soldiers in particular have a few dwarven-adjacent design cues to go with their fancy fur-trimmed cloaks and helmets. Laketown, conversely, is designed to look like an echo of Dale. The Laketown Guard look like the garrison of Dale ordered off of Wish.com, and the militia gathers together anything resembling a weapon they can find, usually fishing, boating, or cooking implements. Dale has a plastic infantry kit of 20 for 32 quid, which is nice, but the rest of their range is in pricey resin. Laketown has it worse, with militia and guard both in 12 model resin kits for 52 quid each, which is far from ideal for a horde army. Their heroes are also exclusively resin, although only Bard and the Master are must-take. Since Warriors of Dale are significantly cheaper, have a similar aesthetic, and come with their shields as a separate component, they make ideal conversion fodder for Laketown Guard. MESBG's Torgorod line has designs very reminiscent of those seen in the Hobbit movies, with a few liberties taken here or there. Both Dale and the men of Laketown are represented here. For Dale, they have two prime candidates for a Girian proxy, Captains and Banners, Warriors, and Knights of Dale with their Druzhina. Oddly, no Wind Lancers, but you can use their faux Gondorian Avenger bolt thrower, with sappers as its crew. Laketown side, we have Dobrynia, the Bard of Torgorod. I see what you did there. Just remember to break the bow of the mounted version, because he can't have nice things anymore. They also have proxies for Braga, Hilda Bianca, and Percy, and a nice smattering of militia and guard. These are excellent, except for one detail: no Master or Alfred. Ancient City Games returns with their northern garrison, with their surcoats removed, and their helmet spikes replaced by plumes. These are very much War of the Ring era re-established Dale, with stand-ins for King Brand and Prince Bard II. Also, crucially, they have a Wind Lance. Dale is like the extroverted best friend of the introverted autistic craftsman that is Erebor. KZK leans into this angle with their dwarven friends. The warrior analogues have options for dwarven war masks and shields, which are used to distinguish the knights from the warriors. They may also have two-handed axes, bizarrely, since neither warrior nor knight can take them in-game. The only hero in this range seems to be King Brand, and in true KZK fashion, he's looking like a grizzled hardass. Unreleased miniatures gives us two sets, the Garrison of Ruzagorod for Dale and the Fisherfolk for Laketown. Ruzagorod looks the most authentically Slavic out of the non-historical proxies in this video, rocking brigandine and furry boots. Coming in standard sets of 3 with swords, spears and bows, along with banner, warhorn, and a wind lance with a novel wing configuration. No knights, no King Brand, and no Prince Bard, but there are at least a Girian and a captain, in the Tsar and Voivode? With their fisherfolk, you can add some feminine energy to your militia with 2 sets of multi-part resin kits that will get you 3 militia women each. They can come equipped with spears, hand weapons or bows. And their shields range from wicker basket lids, sections of door, and some actual shields. Unreleased models are pricey though. As of time of writing, these aren't being sold as STLs, so if you really like the designs or to diversify your militia, go for it. But I wouldn't use these lines as a backbone for your army. Fireforge Games has their fair share of options that can work, from the Byzantine line's Varangian Guard for Knights of Dale, to Russian infantry to act as Warriors of Dale. For Laketown Militia, they have 3 plastic sets: Russian City Militia, Mongol Steppe Warriors, and Northman Folk Rabble from their Forgotten World line, which can all be swapped and bashed together to make a Nordic/Baltic/Slavic/Turkic/Steppe people's militia soup. Another option for Laketown Infantry would be Wargames Atlantic's Classic Fantasy Guards and Baron's War Foot Sergeants for Guard, and Baron's War Peasant Levy for Militia. These together make a good mix of grounded and low fantasy aesthetics for pretty cheap, with a buttload of conversion bits for other armies on the sprues. They have a very Western European vibe though. When it comes to other characters, such as the Master and Alfred, there's a wealth of options out there in the thriving and magical world of D&D NPC miniatures. You have merchants and town leaders, fleeing girls that can be bards' daughters, like these ones by Reconquer Designs. Who also did this lad? Could be Bane with a hand swap. Bane could also be any teenage boy really, so long as the miniature has a belt you can glue a sheathed sword onto. The villages don't have to be European coded either. If you see a model you like from any range, be they Baltic, Japanese, or Moors, they're only a swapped out weapon hand away. I've covered Azog, Bolg, Gundabad, and the Hunter Orcs, and Felwargs in the A video, which leaves spiders, though very easy to find, the Necromancer, the Dol Guldur Nazgul, and the Castellans. One way to proxy the Dol Guldur Nazgul is with official Nazgul, or you could just use the old OC faction wraiths. You probably just use the Witch King on foot as the Witch King. And as you can see, Kamul is quite easy to make. For a more varied and spectral alternative, Monolith Arts has made a series of lich-like wraiths that fit the bill perfectly, looking almost like Souls-like bosses. There are loads of them too, but I've narrowed down to 9. The Corrupted Fiend, the Damned Swordsman, the Fallen Wraith Lord, the Forsaken Duke, the Forsaken Soul, Plague Wraith, the Restless Shadow, the Wicked Shadow, and the Wraith King. They each come in 3 poses each, and you can take your pick and even double up with the 2 pairs of wraiths you share a profile, while still having a unique sculpt for each. They also have Wretched Soul Wraiths, with a near 1-to-1 Witch King helmet, and the Ghost Mage with a Necromancer. As could the Forsaken. The only issue is size, they're pretty damn big, so you may have to find a way to scale them down without compromising on detail. The Printing Goes Ever On has what I think is meant to be a Barrow White, but he can make a decent Necromancer if he's printed to fit a 40mm. They also provide these modular wraiths, with numerous weapon options and the choice of empty hood heads or spaces for a head swap. Also, spiders, to run as giant spiders. Spiders in general are quite easy to find, with dozens of D&D spider minis, not to mention the tiny toy spiders you can find in places like Poundland and Walmart. DeVale produces a queen of spiders and her sons, who proxy the hatchling swarm. She has a more dynamic pose than the official broodmother, who's just kind of standing there. KZK's arachnids are thick-limbed, spiky buggers, whose design reminds me of the spitting spiders from Darkest Dungeon. If you can recall in my A video, I mentioned that KZK Son of Ajnag is a Bolg proxy designed to look like Bolg's unused concept art that later became the Keeper of the Dungeons. Goes without saying that you could use this dismounted version for that purpose. Another option would be Quartermaster Miniature's Fierce Lieutenant, who I think is intended to be a captain for Gundabad Berserkers. He is, however, huge, with a two-handed weapon and a skull motif on his helmet to go along with the Keeper's whole bone thing. Cripple the Gods Foundry produces these Dark Knights of Ruin, who would be great Castellans, empty shells of hooded armour, whose swords have a distal taper, like Morgul blades. As I've gotten older, I've come to appreciate the intricacies of the Army of the Dead's aesthetic, a decrepit and spectral hodgepodge of 9th, 10th and 11th century designs from around Europe that give the dead an antiquated feel, both timeless and placeless. Dunharrow have a decent running of official models, with all but the riders available in plastic kits, meaning that proxying is not such a necessity to play these guys in force. If you want more variety in your army, any bedraggled warriors can be chiselled away at, converted, and painted like ghosts. Check out Quite Cool's video on his ghostly Rohan. This could extend to any concept army using the Dead of Dunharrow profiles. Arnorians, including Arnor-style Spectre proxies, can be used for a group of undead who have broken free of the Witch King's grasp. Elves from the 1st or 2nd Age could rise up from the ruins of Nagathrond or Eregion. Or maybe Helm Hammerhand could be a literal wraith. MESBG's Ghostly Gauls gives the inhabitants of the White Mountains a Gallic flavour. This is somewhat more lore-friendly than even the fantasy Visigoth designs of the films. These are Second Age men, related to the Celtic reminiscent Dunlandings. The sculpts themselves are quite good, giving them a more dignified, warrior-like manner. KZK goes in the opposite direction, and takes an approximation of the film designs and makes them grislier. Their necrotic, disintegrating, jawless faces are lovingly rendered. They look great alongside the officials. The king and his heralds are given horses for some reason, which just makes 3 cool display models really. Also, one of the heralds is sculpted as a hornblower instead of a banner bearer, though that can likely be hand-waved away. The Printing's Ghost Army was designed back when their output could be more cartoony, and it shows. The Ghost King looks more like a White King from Warhammer Fantasy than the Monarch of Dunharrow, and they have a wizard. But taken on their own, the Warriors and Riders, which can be printed as a modular kit or assembled using the Customizer app, can be an ideal choice to supplement an official force with sinister and impressive sculpts. Back to real-world influences, Oathmark's Revenants have a very distinctly Celtic and Germanian flavour, Iceni and Swabian in particular, given the conehorn helmets and topknots. Somewhere between historical and classic fantasy in tone, the standard plastic sprue comes with shields, hand weapons, and two-handed weapons, some of which can be made into spears quite easily. One of the silly standards could be replaced with a banner for a herald, alongside a drummer in the characters pack for the other. Any of the 3 champions could be a good candidate for the king, but there are no riders. This set could be a very good option for a more book-accurate Army of the Dead, or as a complement to MESBG's Gauls. Gripping Beast's Ragnarok line of Norse fantasy saga miniatures has the Draugr. These look like a John Howe painting cast in resin, with a Norse, Germanic, or Anglo-Saxon feel to them. With something of a resemblance to the film/Citadel designs, they have a more consistent uniform if you ignore the unarmoured. and they come with the war gear on the warrior profile. Plenty of banners for heralds, and a plethora of characters that could be a stand-in for the king. The only real drawbacks are the lack of rider proxies, and the price. Very steep for what they are. Dunland in this game is split between two rather different factions. The legacied armoured evil Rohan Dunlandings from before the anime, led by Thryden Wolfsbane, Gorolf Ironskin and Frida Tallspear, and the filmic horde army of wild men, led by the Oathmaker for Isengard, and Wolf, Freka, Targ, and this guy for the Rohanime. The latter is all in plastic, not too hard to get your hands on, but the former, both out of production and made exclusively in metal or resin, will definitely need proxying. A lot of these two ranges can be used interchangeably. Have a few of the old metal Dunlanding warriors lying around. They can be used as Rohan traitors, and vice versa. Thryden Wolfsbane and Targ, for example, could be used as each other, as could Dismounted Wolf and Gorolf. Years ago, Joe Kit bashed some warriors of Rohan into Dunlanding warriors for me, using orc bits, green stuff fur, and saga miniature heads. The same can be done for Dunlanding horsemen with riders of Rohan, or Huskarls with dismounted royal guard. Pretty much everyone who proxied entire armies of the old Dunlandings did so with Victrix Vikings. This is just a huge set of cheap plastic Norsemen, including spears, 1- and 2-handed axes, shields, and a few grisly trophies. It also comes with both armoured and unarmoured bodies, so you can make both warriors and wild men. With a few bare-pelted berserker heads, and plenty of spear points that you bash together with 2-handed axes, you have plenty of Huskarls too. The best thing about Victrix sets are the price. This is 60 miniatures, or £42 if you live in God's country. The worst thing is the scale. These guys are kinda huge for 28mm. Although they can fit on 25mm quite comfortably, this makes kit bashing with GW parts quite difficult. As you can see, the officials are clearly faux Norse. For historicals in general, fan interpretations of Dunland's military tend to portray them as fairly Celtic, having been displaced by the Anglo-Saxon inspired Rohirrim. Victrix has some great German, Gaul, and Dacian miniatures if you want to riff on Targ's Folks. Footsore has Vikings and Picts, but also Dark Age Welsh, who look very much like the official miniatures. MESBG has both historical Vendels, for a more grounded Nordic take on the Dunlandings, and Wildlings, who are closer to the wild men and official armoured warriors. It goes without saying that these guys fit in perfectly with MESBG's Isengard, and their Hrothgar and Unferth could easily be Freka and this guy. This pair of Utish Thanes seem to be designed for that purpose as well, despite the rest of the Utes being Rohan characters. Despite its name, Garwolf isn't Gorolf, but Wolf, with proper Norse weapons, and the Norse Gaelic-looking Finn would be a great targ. The ranges are very small, however, with only 3 wildling sculpts, so you likely won't be getting a full horde from MESBG. KZK has an extensive range of wild men of the hills, which covers both sides of the Dunland faction. The Berserkers could easily be Thryden and Gorolf on foot. Their elites have warriors and Huskarls covered, as well as horsemen and some savage-looking hill tribesmen. One of the 2 sets of these fellas is adorned with animal skulls, like the Danish barbarians we see a few times in War of the Rohirrim, but unfortunately not with the official plastic sprue. They also have this fella, a dual-wielding chieftain with a commanding presence and an option for a horse. He seems like he was designed to be Wolf, High Lord of the Hill Tribes, in the style of the old metal Dunlandings, with the dismounted also resembling Gorolf. This way you could double up. KZK also does snow trolls from Rings of Power, providing 2 options for the one we see with Shank and Rot. DeVale's Fellmount Reavers are a permutation on the film designs for the Hill Tribes. Heroes look cleaner and more neatly arranged than even in the anime. Their targ, Kar, is given a beard and a falchion, whereas the Wolfbane Lord is pretty much the same, only with a full-size sword in his offhand. They also have an older proxy for Thryden Wolfsbane, both foot and mounted, both of which I prefer to the originals. His axe looks like an actual weapon with mighty blow instead of a woodcutter's axe, and his executioner pose is more exciting. The printing has a few range updates, which they call Tales, which can help you build a Dunland army. Tales of the Sea Raiders provides a selection of proxies from War of the Rohirrim. These include a pre-Twink Death Wolf, a Targ with a very Colovian vibe, clean looking selection of Huskarls, Herdmen, Footmen and Archers that would be great for a couple of warbands of Wildmen flavoured as this guy's traitor levies, as well as a few scruffy berserkers for true Wildmen. They also have this pretty gnarly looking snow troll. Tales of the Shield Wall adds parts from these models, along with some Ragnarian bits and bobs, to the Customizer app, so you can pick and choose at your leisure. Unreleased miniatures have a Freyka who's even wider in the belt than the movie version.
You've missed many a council, though it seems very few meals.
Hailing from Dunkin' Donuts from the great state of obesity!
Who can be equipped for battlefield or banquet hall. They also have the insidious Lord This Guy, with a nicer set of armour, and more secretive pose than the G-Dub Thorn. Oh yeah, that was his name. Despite the separate names, unreleased miniatures Bullseyes, Stallion Slayers, Nagskull Cutthroats, and Marrowsuckers are all wild men with the horse skulls from the anime. These models really sell the savage nature of the Hillmen. However, they suffer from the same problem as the Fisherfolk, in that they're around £13 each, for sets of 3. This is another Horde army. If you want a few centerpiece sculpts for your pre-existing Horde, I recommend them, especially the Cutthroats and the Marrows in particular. Unreleased also does Craybind with their 4 sets of Feasts of Crows. These are big and intricate models featuring 3 little terrain pieces festooned with crows, who are picking a Rohan corpse clean, along with a signpost if you want something less grisly. If you're looking for cheap, I'd also recommend Reaper Miniatures' Murder of Crows. I have one, though it's in dire need of a repaint, it scales really well on a 40mm base. The company also produces the steel-clad Orc Shaman, who would be great for Shank. And the Hungerbelly Ravagers, one of which would be ideal for Rot. Just like with Khan Doom, Frostgrave's Barbarians hit the spot, with cheap, fur-clad wild boys and girls that are 20 quid, but 20 in the UK. Their Barbarian Chieftain and Berserker could also be good options for generic chieftains. One issue is that they look like Conan's Cimmerians, like noble savages, as opposed to just plain savages. Northstar also does a set of crows in the horror line that can be used for Craybind. Finally, Navarrete Studios produces a frost troll inspired by the one from the Besiegers of the Hornburg, only with more emphasis on the crystalline growths on his body. He also has more of a resemblance to the trolls we see in the Jackson trilogy, while retaining the yak-like aspects of the film Snow Troll. And that's all she wrote. Thanks for stopping by, and for sticking through it to the end. I know this was another long one. Next time will be the Ease, Erebor, which will include Thorin's company, and the Easterlings. Please let me know what you think. Are my picks trash? Who's to say? You? If so, tell me. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the video, and want to see others like it. This is the 4th in a little playlist now. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.
Old kings that refuse a prophet's staff may fall on their knees. You do not command the loyalty you think you do.
This fat son of a bitch is challenging all of us, has been world champions before, been in this business 15, 20 years, and this fat son of a bitch is going to trial us all out.
Calm down, okay?
He's fat! I'm gonna... I don't care if he don't... I'll make him bleed!